All right, so it's been approximately about 6 hours and like 20 minutes, I think. And the Leatherman's already rested. So yeah. I'll leave that there. I mean, when that one's done. And I'll periodically check on the Vanax. And I don't see anything on the Vanax currently. So this shouldn't rust, but we'll see. All right, so yeah, this will go on for a week. But for now, yeah, the Leatherman's done. All right, so today's Tuesday, and I did see like a little spot. And the thing is, I can't see it on the camera. So here's about 1/4 inch above my nail. There it is, barely. You can barely see it. See where that little rainbow colored streak is? There's a little dot right about there. Can't really tell. You can kind of tell when the little rainbow streak shows up. It kind of splits it. So, all right, I don't know what that is, so I'm gonna keep an eye on it. That's the only spot I saw. Back it goes. And today is Tuesday, but yeah, just to show you the date. All right, so it is currently Sunday the 26th. So this knife's been here for a whole week, and I've periodically taken it out and looked at it, and so it's been fine. I mean, there's no rust on this. There is one spot which I showed you, and I noticed on Tuesday. It could have been earlier than that, but I actually didn't check on this knife until then. Could have had that little spot earlier than that. But yeah. So yeah, no rust. All right, and I'll show you the spot. So it hasn't grown, and I have to actually look at it. I have to find it off camera. All right, there it is. So if I can get it to focus, I can't really get it on camera that well. It is, the only way I can do this if I could make that little, it is about 1/4 inch above my nail. A little spot right there. There you go. You can kind of see it there. So a little rainbow line, that little dot. So I looked at it. It's not a pit. It hasn't pitted or hasn't grown or hasn't done anything. So what it is, in my opinion, I use this. I mean, I sharpen this knife with my my ceramic stones that I have. So I used it for a week at work, and then instead of doing just sandpaper, I just decided to use the ceramic stones. And I use those stones for like all kinds of knives. So what I think happened, that's just like a transfer from, because they're not clean, the stones aren't clean, so I think I just got like transfer from one material, a different type of steel transferred onto this blade. So I'm guessing that's just like a little speck or something that got stuck on there when I use my stones. And I do sharpen from all the way back here when I use the stones. So I don't just do just like the bevel. Since this is a convex, I go back here and then I redo the convex. That's what I do. So, all right. And then last, I'll show you, but I have to use a little tripod for that. I'll show you how sharp it is in a second. Okay, so I'm gonna wipe this thing off. And then I'm gonna cut the paper. This paper's actually been sitting here for a week too. This is the same paper I used already. Little micro scratches and stuff. Okay. This cloth doesn't really take the water away that well. All right. So, same paper. Whoop. And it feels about the same to me. So it feels about the same too. All right, so next up, so in my opinion, this passed. I was trying to make a completely waterproof knife, and I did. I mean waterproof, a completely rust-proof knife, and I did. I mean, I didn't make the whole thing. I just put the right things together, and I'll talk about that in a second, to make a rust-proof knife. So next up, I'm just going to talk about just a few things in general about what is rust-proof, and then what knives you can actually get that are completely rust-proof. Yeah, so that'll be up next. Okay. All right, so just to wrap this up, this part is just going to be me talking about what makes a knife completely corrosive-proof. So, this was my first try at making a completely non-corrosive knife, and I failed. The reason for that is because I used dissimilar materials. So I used titanium and then Vanax. And the problem with that is, check out something called galvanic corrosion when you have a chance. If you use two materials that are both conduct electricity, and you put it in an electrolyte, whichever material corrodes less is going to cause the other material to corrode more when they're in contact. It's weird, yeah, but that's what happens. So titanium, this piece of titanium made the Vanax start corroding because it's more corrosive resistant. So the only way to make a completely corrosive proof knife is by either using materials that are not conductive at all, in junction with whatever metal you're using, or use the same metal throughout, basically. So this is G10 is non-corrosive at all. They use it non-conductive at all, and non-corrosive too. But they use it for computer chips and stuff like that because it doesn't conduct electricity at all. So I decided to use G10 completely throughout this handle, and so it's G10 scales and then G10 pins, and that's basically what did it. But it doesn't really end there too. As you saw, that little spot that I got on the blade, on this blade, was because there is another form of corrosion that can happen, and that's when you have seeding, or when you have, I think that's what it's called. To make a completely, well, all right, that little speck I believe is just a transfer of just material onto the blade that got stuck on there, on the surface, and that's what showed up as a little dot of corrosion, of rust. But there's nothing you have to watch out for, which is if you have a material, like let's say I'm using a file on this knife, and I go over it with the file, and a little chip comes off and actually embeds itself in the steel, then you have another little point where corrosion will start to bloom, and you don't want that either. So I try to use sandpaper as much as I can, basically, so everywhere. And then where I couldn't use sandpaper, basically here, with the file, I started with the file, and I tried to go over as much as I could with sandpaper too afterwards, in between the little cross and everything. So yeah, so that's how I was able to make this completely corrosion resistant, corrosion proof. So yeah, so check out Vanax, check out LC200N, and check out H1, like very amazing, wonderful steels. Now, so what can you buy basically? And this is like, what can you go out and buy that's completely 100% corrosion proof? So this is the next point, next part I want to talk about. And here I have one example, and it's the Spyderco, and this is, oh wow, I should actually looked it up. Wow, whatever. I'll put it in the description of the video afterwards. So this is made out of H1, and this is FRN basically. This like glass reinforced nylon, I think. This handle. So once again, this is completely non-conductive. And then you just have the only thing that is conductive is this particular steel, which is H1, and it's also nitrogen steel. So there isn't anything else that to cause galvanic corrosion, and it's just basically by itself. It's H1 is basically also completely corrosion proof, and so you don't have anything interfering. So just this, and then basically something that's completely non-conductive. There's also, I think, the waterway that's made out of LC200N, and I'm sure there's other fixed plates. They use the same combo, basically the same mixture of materials to make the knife. The only thing that there is that's in the Salt series of the Spydercos, there's also actually another, talking about this, there is other knives, folding knives that I've seen that use Vanax, and then they'll use titanium and stuff like that for the handle. So in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure this is 100% sure, I mean right, those are not 100% corrosion proof, simply because they're using different types of materials. Same thing with the Salt series, the ones that are not fixed plates. All those that you see, they all have coated screws. They might use the same material for the frame lock and stuff like that, but they also have different things like ball bearings, stuff like that. They might use ceramic bearings for some things, but they always have something that isn't the same as everything else. So if it isn't the screws that are coated, those will eventually rust, even though if they're coated or not. So if they don't use screws that are coated, that being one of the problems. Sometimes you use titanium for the scales, which is another problem because you'll have them in contact with other materials that are conductive. And if they do use FRN scales, then same thing with the screws or whatever, or they'll have a different like locking setup that is made of different materials. So the only ones I've been able to find that you can just buy from the market, and use this one actually to run with, is the fixed plates. So if you do want something that's completely corrosion proof, and you can go out and buy it right now, I would go for the Salt series of Spyderco and just buy the fixed plates. But just, I think all the ones they make, all the LC200N and the H1 versions that are fixed plates all have just basically this combo, FRN, and then just whatever steel they choose to use. That's whatever nitrogen steel you use. So yeah, but yeah, so finally, I think this wraps it up. I was able to make a knife that is completely corrosion proof, and I got to test it and everything. So next up, I'm gonna do a cutting test on this, and I'll compare it to the knife it's supposed to replace. And I've already done videos on that knife, but the Warcraft Tanto by Cold Steel. Okay, all right. If you have any questions too, let me know. All right, bye.